Since the release of the third part of Poppy Playtime has passed only 2 weeks, and many fans are already waiting for a new chapter of our favorite game. Hello everyone. We all know that Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was a very successful and very high-quality game that made not only avid fans of this series of games fall in love with it, but also absolutely new users. But the release of the third chapter could not do without problems. Namely, some part of the Mob Entertainment team left the studio sometime before the release. And okay, if it was sound designers or scriptwriters, although they are of course also very important, but the team left the animators. And without animators, as you understand, the whole visual component of the game cannot exist. However, Mob Entertainment managed to settle the situation, and still we could see our long-awaited game on January 31, 2024. Let's finish with our preface and talk about news, leaks, rumors, and everything else related to Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. Let's first talk about how the new chapter starts. Of course, you might think that it would be logical for us to start our journey in the new part from the place where the third chapter was finished. And I agree with you, but judging by past experience, it's not as logical as we can imagine. A long time ago, after passing the second chapter, many players began to think about how the new chapter can begin. And the starting place of the third chapter is different from the location where we finished the second chapter, although this place we have already visited. If you forget, at the end of the second chapter, there was a crash and we lost consciousness, which means someone had to rescue us and pull us out of the wreckage. Back in the day, I assumed it would be Kissy Missy because she's one of the few good characters. But for me as well, as probably for many of you, was a surprise that our savior was not Kissy Missy at all, but all of us known CatNap. To be honest, I was very surprised by this turn of events because initially we all realized that he will be the main villain of the third chapter, and here is such kindness. Of course I'm joking, and our rescue was not a gesture of mercy on the part of CatNap, but was just a part of his game. Obviously, his main goal was our death, but before that, he just had to play with us a little bit, so to speak. After all, as you know, all cats don't mind playing with their victims, but after all, CatNap is a monster and his victim is us, and it is not so happy as it could seem at first sight. And at the beginning of Chapter 4, I'm sure we'll see something similar. Most likely, we will also see some unexpected beginning that will not be like the ending of the third chapter at all. However, let's not fantasize too much and start from what you've seen. We finished the third chapter in the elevator as we started to go down. However, right after that, we heard some scary sounds of Kissy Missy, and then we started to go upstairs. Apparently, the fourth chapter will start and continue in the same place where the events of the third chapter took place. It turns out that no one is going to let us leave the shelter. So let's say we get back to Kissy Missy, and what happens next? I only have 2 possibilities for what could happen. First, she could just die, because the sounds we heard at the end clearly mean the sounds of a struggle, which means once we were out of sight, that's when she was attacked. Who it was is still a mystery to us. It could be little smiling monsters that could easily attack Kissy Missy, but if you think about it, they are a threat to her. But I wouldn't say she's any less of a threat to them than they are to her. We've seen that they can attack weakened monsters who can't exactly fight back. However, you can say that they attack not only the weakened ones, but then why, when CatNap appeared in front of them, instead of attacking him, they sat quietly, and I even got the feeling that they were very much afraid of him, even though there are too many of them, and all they had to do was to submit to the stronger monster. From this we can say that the option with small monsters is possible, but its probability is extremely low. But the other villain, Poppy Playtime, is even very likely to fit the role of the one who attacked our pink friend. What if Kissy Missy was attacked by the prototype? This option is most likely because he, at least for some purpose, collects the bodies of dead monsters. Initially, you would think that he just collects our fruit, but as we later found out that he himself can easily kill any monster if he wants to. Apparently, he managed to sneak up on Kissy Missy and ended up killing her and taking her body for himself as usual. And of course, I can't help but tell you about the second possibility of what might have happened to her at the end, and why we heard that piercing howl. What if Kissy Missy wasn't actually attacked and we heard those noises because our good Kissy Missy just became an evil character? Or maybe she always was and was just pretending to be a good friend who was willing to help us. If this is true, I have a theory that most monsters are actually good, but they are negatively affected by the prototype and make them do evil things. Because on the Joy Hour tape we saw that all the monsters in general behaved quite appropriately and as if on the orders of someone all at once went crazy and started smashing everything and killing everyone, including Kissy Missy. And since the monsters that obey the prototype becomes less and less, we can safely assume that to replenish his army, he decided to tame another character. And those cries that we hear from Kissy Missy are a cry of pain from the resistance, because she hardly wants to be in the power of the prototype again, as in that unfortunate hour. Which version is closer to, you can write in the comments under this video, and we continue. New monsters. In my opinion, the developers in the new part of the game will not leave us without new monsters. So let us now try to guess who they can add. One of such monsters can be Boxy Boo, which we can see on the very sinister tape The Hour of Joy. Yes, this is certainly not a new monster. He is already familiar to us all. We can see him in Project Playtime, and we are aware of all his capabilities. But still, in the base version of the game, we did not see him, so maybe we should expect him in the new version of Poppy Playtime. Boxy Boo is one of the main monsters, whose death we haven't seen yet. Yes, in the previous versions of the game, we noticed the death of such characters as Huggy Waggy, Mommy Longlegs, and of course the main character of the third part of Poppy Playtime, CatNap. Well, and we shouldn't forget about his former friends from Smiling Critters Company, who died at his hands. So for now, from the most known characters, we still have Boxy Boo, so we can expect his appearance with high probability. My opinion about Boxy Boo is that I would be happy to see him in the new version of the game, if only the developers could introduce him into the story and make his existence in the game as interesting as possible. The next character that many people are waiting for is Prototype. You will say to me, so we have seen him in previous versions of the game. In the first chapter, he was in the form of a reference on the tape. In the second part of the game, he dragged away the remains of Mommy Longlegs. Well, and in the third part, he was the main villain, who was obeyed by CatNap and forced everyone else to do the same. Maybe in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 we will see him in full form, and we will see what the sacrifices of all the monsters led to. There is of course a theory that Prototype is actually kind, and he wanted to free all the monsters from the abuse of the Poppy factory workers. But then how can we explain the murder of his main subordinate by CatNap? Besides the above-mentioned characters, Mob Entertainment developers can add completely new monsters, which we have never seen before. As for example, in the third chapter, they added Miss Delight, and maybe it will be someone from the old forgotten characters, which we could see in the form of a drawing or a toy. We can only wait for the release of the game trailer of the new part of the game to dispel all our assumptions. Well, and the most important question that interests absolutely every fan of Poppy Playtime is of course the release date of the new fourth chapter of our favorite game. The third chapter has not had time to get bored yet, and many fans are already guessing and trying to predict the release date of the fourth chapter. Once on their Twitter, Mob Entertainment said that the development of the third chapter began in May 2023, and the release took place in January 2024, and therefore the entire development cycle was about 8 months. Well, what did the developers do in the rest of the time? I think after the release of the second chapter, the focus of their attention shifted to the studio's merch and Project Playtime. And if to be as objective as possible, 8 months for such a quality product that we got in the end is a very small period of time. Mob Entertainment did not just meet the short deadline, but I have an idea that they made the game even faster than they had originally planned. In spite of all the problems, they managed to cope and release just a perfect game that you want to play and play. Well, maybe this post was a reference to the fourth chapter? What if Mob Entertainment wanted to give us a hint as to how long we should wait for the next chapter? But I think it's nothing more than conspiracy. More seriously, I'm sure that the release of the new chapter should be expected no sooner than a year from now, and now I'll explain why. I believe that the third chapter has become an idol in the Poppy Playtime universe, and it has surpassed the previous 2 chapters combined, which means that the fourth chapter should simply destroy our brains. And in this case, the game will have to be made not just very detailed, but maximally thought out, and preferably for 4 or 5 hours of gameplay. And this is not such an easy task. That's why I'm going to make the game for February-March 2025. I would like to wish you success and good luck, and say see you soon in new videos that appear every 2 days.